Klee is returning to Genshin Impact in version 1.6 after 8 months since her last banner, and many players are excited to see her run around in Teyvat once again. She certainly is an adorable pyromaniac that blows up her enemies with ease, but if you're on the fence about pulling for her, you should know what her problems are before you spend your wishes. Before You Wish is a video series that is dedicated to noting the good, bad, and ugly of certain characters in Genshin Impact. Many aspects of a unit are not apparent to the average Genshin player even after trying them out in trials due to the inaccurate testing environment. Explicitly noting the pros and cons of these characters in full detail should inform you about how to push them to their highest potential and what it costs to do so. To be clear, if you enjoy a character for reasons like their voice actor, aesthetic, or personality, these videos are by no means meant to stop you from spending your primos on them. Instead, they are meant to inform you if you're still on the fence and aren't sure whether or not a character can meet your gameplay expectations. Alright, with those disclaimers out of the way, let's get started. Klee first appeared on October 20th with her first banner in version 1.0. Initial analysis of Klee back then was positive, since she was released at a time where the Abyss had a 75% pyro damage bonus and enemies that were not susceptible to being juggled by Klee. Over half a year later, Klee has seemingly fallen to the wayside, as pyro DPS compositions featuring Bennett, Diluc, Xiangling, and Hu Tao have mostly replaced her. But why is this? It's not because Klee has been power crept or anything, it's just that her understanding of manipulating elemental reactions has improved, and we've realized that she does not exploit vaporize and melt reactions as well as other pyro carries. We just assumed that her reaction rate was very similar to Diluc at the time, when in reality her kit is too sporadic to be consistent. Moreover, Xiangling and Bennett were both in the game before Klee was, but it wasn't until a little while after her banner that their potential as pyro carries was fully realized. In essence, Klee's fall over the past half a year was due to us both overestimating her strength while also underestimating the competition. Klee's normal attack string, her elemental skill, and her burst all lock her in place during their animations, working against her extremely low base HP and making her feel unresponsive. The end result of this is constant frustration over dead inputs during her lockout animations and dying more often. Klee requires the usage of animation cancels to mitigate her clunkiness and squishiness. Her short range forces her to play extremely close to enemies to make use of her charge attacks, making positioning extremely punishing. Furthermore, her base charge attack costs 50 stamina, so without managing her passive properly, players will run out of stamina very quickly. As KleefulFrames would put it, it is highly recommended to play Klee not as a charge attack only character, but as an auto cancel into charge attack when you have her spark passive up and available. Klee cannot access freeze and melt team comps because, against frozen enemies, her attacks cause the shatter reaction before melt can occur. This lowers her damage ceiling significantly and also prevents her teams from using freeze to CC enemies. Shatter will remove both the frozen status from the enemy along with most of the cryo or hydro elements used to freeze the enemy, preventing melt or vaporize. Even Klee's most popular team, Vaporize Klee, requires a Constellation 6 Xingqiu because her pyro application is too strong to consistently vaporize her charge attacks without the extra hydro application from Xingqiu C6. This is a killing blow to many players because Klee is in direct competition with the other premier pyro DPS units in the game that rely on Xingqiu, while none of them needing him at C6 specifically. You have to justify playing Klee over other pyro units if you have them, since using Xingqiu with Klee prevents her from being used with the others. But the math does not support you in this endeavor, as other pyro damage dealers like Hu Tao simply do more damage. Similar to Yanfei, Klee's almost strictly outclassed by Xiangling, Bennett, and Hu Tao as pyro DPS. Klee and Yanfei have to stay on field to make use of their DPS windows, so they have to use teammates that have strong off-field buffs or effects to increase their damage while they are in their burst, and cannot receive the full benefit of their support's kit due to their inability to swap. While it's possible to swap Klee off before her burst ends, you will lose out on Klee's personal DPS. And again, to emphasize further, if you are already invested into Diluc, Hu Tao, DPS Bennett, or off-field carry Xiangling, You really have to enjoy Klee to make her worth it. Despite her issues, Klee is still a viable unit. Not being as strong as Xiangling or Bennett is not an indictment to Klee's power. She can still clear content very easily as long as you put the time into her. But she will still struggle to keep up with other pyro units such as a similarly invested Xiangling. Klee is highly skill expressive. Similar to Hu Tao, she has many animation cancels that can increase her damage potential between 10 to 30%. Just knowing that holding down a movement key and only using her first normal attack can improve your gameplay. On top of avoiding her long normal string, you can immediately buffer into a charge attack and jump to reposition. Using a simple string like 2 normal attacks into a charge attack can mitigate nearly all of her stamina problems. Klee also has very high stagger value, meaning she can juggle almost any enemy in the game that can be staggered by her charge attacks, and it is also very easy to juggle enemies in the air. The catch here, however, is that she will also push small enemies far out of her effective range, and dashing to catch up costs precious stamina that can be used to dodge or fire off another charge attack. In co-op, Klee is also one of the best units to pair with the cryo carry. She will always maintain pyro aura for your teammates to proc melt, and even generates energy passively. In solo play, Klee's energy generation isn't that significant, however, because once you're in her burst, you cannot swap to other units and generate energy. So, when should you pull for her? Well, Klee is an adorable unit. If you love her as a character, she can definitely work as a pyro carry. If you enjoy flaunting mechanical prowess on the same level as charge attack cancels on Hu Tao, you may also enjoy piloting Klee. But when shouldn't you pull for her? It's kind of hard to recommend pulling for Klee if you have any level of investment into other units like Yanfei, Bennett, Xiangling, Diluc, or Hu Tao. She pulls units like Xingqiu away from other team comps that can deal more damage with him. On top of all that, if you can't reliably animation cancel, then she's even more lackluster, and her personal damage output typically won't reach the level of other pyro DPS characters even with animation cancels. Her damage output simply pales in comparison to an invested Xiangling, Bennett, or Hu Tao, and she does not currently have units that synergize very well with her kit. To quote expert theorycrafters Zajev77, if you're pulling strictly for character strength, I can't recommend Klee over other units, but since Genshin's harder content is mostly just a matter of how good your artifacts are, even as an arguably inferior unit, she can still comfortably clear Abyss. Special thanks to Zajev77, TenTen, and KleefulFrames for helping us put this video together. You can check out their channels and Twitch links in the description down below. Klee is a very special unit, but comes with her own unique bag of worms. There are no perfect units in Genshin, but we really want to let the community know what they're in for if they want to play Klee. Yahoo!